Hi all, this is Kermit the Frog. No, it's not. Hey guys, Omar here, and today we're going to discuss creating your portfolio finally. If you're someone that has thousands of images and you can't find anything, I'm totally talking about myself right now. So for the last few days, I've been sort of culling my professional images, all my temple sessions, my parties, and it's actually very motivating to see what you've done. And I decided to make this video because it's important to grab your best work, have it in a little space so you can go to it. So we're going to discuss why you should make a portfolio first, and then I'll show you what I'm doing, which may not be what you end up doing, but we're going to sort of spark some ideas here. Okay, so let's start with guay. That's how my family says why. Pero guay. Guay. Okay, the first guay is to track your progress, track where you've been. I'll use one example for me. One example for me is lighting. I am such a stickler for lighting. I'm always practicing my lighting, and I feel like I have my lighting down because I keep looking back to see what I've done and what I like. Well, let's say you have all your landscape photos together. You can see 10 years ago versus now. You can track your progress. Are you getting better? Or are you kind of the same, you're doing kind of the same things? Two, the second reason to collect all your best work is to hone in on what you like. What are your interests? And I kind of did this with my personal work last week before I started doing my pro work. And I realized that I have tons of pictures of bicycles. And I'm always, when I go out, I was like, oh, I love bicycles. I'm also a cyclist. So when I'm out on the street, if I see an interesting bike, I photograph it, but sort of put it in the background because I'm trying to do street photography. But going through my sort of best work for my personal work, I made a little collection of bicycles, and I ended up picking the best 12 and designing a calendar on these bicycle shots, and it made me happy. Next, saving winners from obscurity. Going through a lot of my old work, I realized that I took some shots that I don't remember, that sort of were sitting on a hard drive surrounded by other images. And so you can rediscover yourself by looking back and be like, hey, you know, I really did take a nice flower picture. For me, it was flowers. In 2011, I took tons of flower pictures and I never did anything with them. So it's great to go back and sort of pick the winners, you know, remove them from this sort of clutter that happens on your hard drive and put them in a portfolio. All right, the next reason to create a portfolio is you can kind of see which focal lengths you're favoring. And this will change, of course, and also depend on what lenses you own. But I realized that when I was shooting street photography with the Nikon Z6 II, I was more drawn to the 100 millimeter, 105 millimeter lens street photos. I was liking the look of those, the compression in that focal length. And it's something that I would explore. So as you collect the work you like, it will, lead you down that path. Do I want to do more of that? And, because we're trained to, hey, let's go out with a 35 millimeter lens. You know what? You may realize that you have a style. You shoot everything super wide, or you shoot everything with a zoom lens. I know I found this with landscapes, that it's great to shoot a landscape that's wide with maybe like a little foreground element or something. But I also enjoyed zooming in on landscapes, which is really cool, So finding what focal lengths you like. And then this is great because if you're going to go out, you're going to travel, or you're just going out, you're a little bit more secure about which lens you're going to grab. You're like, I could rock this with a 50, and you can walk around all day with a 50 millimeter because of your portfolio. So it's important to grab your images and see what works for you. That sounded like a commercial. Finding a style and sort of collecting that style and finding the lighting that works, but you should also expand your portfolio. That might show you that, hey, you need to try something different. And I saw that grabbing my images that I love. Yeah, I'm going to keep doing those, but let's mix it up every now and then. Okay, the next one I wrote down here was, one of the things I found was great was to go back to your old work and fix a lot of your editing mistakes. There's editing trends. And when I started doing digital photography, there was like, horrible HDR. I don't know if some of you remember that, but it was very high dynamic range all over the place, images that were very crunchy with clarity. And so I was drawn to those street images. And so I was killing the clarity, let's just say. And so it's nice to bring those 5D Mark II images and bring them back to today. This is why you should shoot RAW, by the way. And so fixing some of your old mistakes, updating your portfolio to have some of these older images is really great. All right, so how do you make a portfolio? Well, there's 1,000 ways, right? There is no right way to do it, except my way, which is the right way. No, I'm just kidding. I think I'm gonna show you, I'm just gonna tell you what I do because I have two worlds in my photography. I've got my family, personal work, vacations, that's all one world, my own work. And then I am a working photographer where I pick my portfolio a different way. So let's start with my personal work. So I'm going to talk mostly Lightroom, but you can sort of translate it to anywhere you have your images. But the important thing when you're creating a portfolio, super important, is to sort of automate the process. So what I mean is Lightroom allows you to filter and make something called smart collections. This is a collection of images that if they get a keyword or they get a star rating or they get a color rating, it will go into that folder. It's important to not just stress about picking your best images. What I mean is this collection should be a pool of what can go in your portfolio. So that's what I do. Now from this pool, you can sort of just, again, automate a second smart collection that is your portfolio. So that could be anything that's labeled blue, that could be anything that's labeled with 5 stars. And now this folder, it's important to publish it. And so I actually have SmugMug. I've been using SmugMug for many years. And so I can publish that collection to my SmugMug. Okay, now those are JPEGs, by the way. And that becomes a little bit of something you have to decide are your portfolio images done and you're sort of burning JPEGs of them. And I don't love that because as we discussed, you make some editing faux pas and there are editing trends that, change. So it's important that your portfolio be also original RAWs somewhere. And you could do that a bunch of different ways. So you can also have Lightroom Mobile, sort of look at that folder. And then your Lightroom Mobile, that's your phone, your iPad, those portfolio images are always there. Now, what's great about this, I've been with so many photographers that, they're talking about something they've done, like a lighting, and they're scrolling through their Instagram, which is not your portfolio. And so they'll scroll. I did this one thing this one time. Let me show you. And we're standing there. How cool would it be if you had your SmugMug or you had your Lightroom Mobile and or a Dropbox or something, and it has your best images organized. You can go through and show your portfolio quickly. Well, what about my professional work? So someone's calling me. Now, to make a portfolio, a professional portfolio, if you're an event photographer or wedding photographer, for me, that's a little different because each job is its own catalog. And what ends up happening is you have a bunch of different catalogs as opposed to having a master one with every job you've ever done. So if that sounds like you, I'll share what I do. So what's great is after each event that I shoot, I already pick, right after the job is done and all the images are uploaded, my clients get a highlight reel and a first round. And that first round is when I call the first bunch of images, I'll go through and pick about 80-ish images. We make a slideshow from it and it ends up being the best images anyway. So instead of this daunting task of thousands of photos to go through, my portfolio is already kind of set because from those 80, I just need to pick my favorite, let's say 15, and those get sent to my hard drive. So what I'll do is I have an export, sort of an export that's ready to go. I can highlight those 15 images that are great, right-click them, and then I have an export that already is set for the folder that they're going to. Now, by the way, they're going to my Synology, which is also hooked up online, and I can access them online. But my Synology has a folder for best portraits, for best temple sessions, for best reception, best street, that whole kind of thing. And that's organized by folder. Oh, yeah. So how to export the images. Now, if you export them as original RAWs, you're going to lose all the work you did, all the editing. And if you export them as JPEGs, well, now all the edits are burned in and you can't really change them that much. So the best compromise, and this could be a little bit of a controversial topic for some people, is I export them as DNGs. DNGs are kind of like the RAW file with a little sidecar file filled in together that holds the Lightroom edit that you did, but you can also change, they act like RAWs. Now, some people don't like this. They don't like that it's a DNG, which is like an Adobe only, and that in the future, 100 years from now, you might not be able to open a DNG. I don't care. I have the edited JPEGs already backed up online. And so I don't mind the DNG that I could play with and try new edits with in my portfolio. And they're full size, they have the dynamic range, it's very cool. So that export is an automatic DNG export to a folder. And then I have all these folders, and then I just have one master portfolio catalog. And that master portfolio catalog looks at all these folders, best reception, best tempo, best street. And then you can organize, you can look, you can keyword. And so you have a collection of your best work in one catalog. Get your work together. Get your work together. It's very motivating. All right, I'll see you guys next time.